crazy day yesterday trying to upload video. Me and FK were talking about because it was a really matches today and tomorrow and Thursday. Kind of talk about everything. So we can talk about Arsenal, European matches, squad building, whatever you guys want to talk about. And if you're in the chat box right now, just let me know where you're listening in from or where you're watching from and how you're doing this morning/afternoon. All right. So Arsenal had put out the but they had one for Granit Xhaka this morning, and I thought about it. He's really just not like what we need. Obviously, more research and talking to tricks for Xhaka and some add up. And I think he's probably still not what we need long term, but in the short term, I think he's pretty much one of our only leaders and a consistent player. Yes, he has the odd clanger here and there. Him and Louise are very similar in that way, but they're also a part of our leadership group. So it kind of is what it is, right? But I think he's better than what people make him out to be. And that video, the mic'd up video, I thought was just so good, showing how a captain behaves. He, to me, behaved like a captain, and I get it that, everybody says that Aubameyang leads by example, but I don't necessarily feel like that's true. I think he scores goals, which is what a striker does, but in terms of Xhaka, he was out there, really he was instrumental in, I guess, the team understanding what the tactics were out there on the field. And, that's what they always say, like the captain is basically the coach on the field. He's helping the team carry out those orders. And it seemed like he was doing a really good job of that. He was telling Danny what to do, telling Gabrielle what to do, telling pretty much everybody, Pablo Marie, what to do. And it was really nice to see. And then even after, we had scored the goal, he got everybody in kind of like a little huddle and told them to stay there while they got some more encouragement and more probably instructions from the manager, instructions from him. And I just thought to myself, like, man, if this guy had not, thrown the armband on the ground, against Crystal Palace last season, he definitely could still be the captain. And I've talked to several people about this. And I think if Arteta thought he could get away with it, he probably would give Granit Xhaka the armband. But I think that that's kind of long gone now. I just don't think that even when fans come back in the stands that it would be received well, because there's just a very popular narrative amongst the Arsenal fan base, that Granit Xhaka is just a bad actor, but I do see that, Machine is saying he respectfully disagrees and Xhaka is just not good enough. I don't know if you're referring to, in respect to being a captain or a player, but earlier I was saying that, I don't think he's what we need long term. I still stand firm by that. I know that he's doing well right now with Thomas, but I think we need something different, something a little bit more athletic and a true CDM to allow Thomas Partey to do what he does. I think we need to move away from making sure that there's players around, Louise and Xhaka and players like this so that they don't get exposed. Whereas we need to put the right types of players together in order for them to do better, to support their skill sets, if that makes sense. Essentially, what we do is we just make sure that somebody is holding Granit Xhaka's hand, so that he doesn't get exposed. And we set up the team and we put him in positions where, he won't get bypassed. He won't be caught out, but if you put a CDM behind Thomas Partey, I don't think that's necessarily like hand holding. It's more of two players making each other better. And I don't necessarily feel like we have that right now. I think Thomas is making Xhaka better, to be honest, so again, I do think long-term, we need something better than Granit Xhaka in our midfield. But in terms of him being out there and being a vocal leader, I think that that's important for a team that really lacks leadership, and in a team where the person that actually has the armband is not really a vocal leader. You can, debate whether or not leadership needs to be vocal. But for me, I think on a big pitch, you probably want somebody that's shouting orders and a little bit louder out there. Mark says, hey, Jess, have a good show. I will listen when working from home. Yes, thank you, Mark. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Don One says, hello, folks. Mark says, Xhaka should be captain, but agreed he not have it no more. That has come and gone. He's a leader on that pitch. Every time we score, you can see his passion and desire to win. I agree. It's just, I just don't think that Arteta could get away with a choice like that. And I don't think we really need the unnecessary um, press and media, explosion from that. Because if you give him it seems like the media is so keen for, the Arsenal narrative to be a certain way. So I can just totally see, the paper talk being Arteta gives the armband back to the guy that threw it on the ground type of thing. I just don't think we need that at all. Machine says we need a destroyer in midfield. Exactly. And I think that's the misconception about Thomas, is that we thought because he was like a 6'1", physically imposing guy that he was going to be a destroyer, but that's not his skill set. We need somebody more similar to Yves Bissouma. I'm a huge Basuma fan. I wish we had the funds to get that done. I think if we go after Odegaard, whatever we get in midfield, if we get something, will be an under the radar signing or just a cheaper option. But if I had the choice, I would definitely bring in a Basuma to unlock Thomas Partey, because we spent 45 million on him, and it's time to, make him the important person in our midfield and build around him. Static says, hey, Jess, Basuma from Brighton needs to replace Xhaka. Would you guys be upset, if Granit Xhaka stayed around and we still brought in Basuma? Does Granit Xhaka have to leave, or can he be a rotational option in the squad? Noel says, yeah, we got it right the first time around with the captain. He's very much the best leader in the squad. It's not a coincidence that he's been captain everywhere he's been. Exactly. I mean, we can't knock his leadership. He's definitely a leader. He just has that moment every once in a while where he sees red. And, I was thinking about this, earlier this morning, if I was going to say it or not, because I know it could get clipped, or, people will misinterpret it or manipulate it to make it seem like I'm saying something I'm not. But if you remember Patrick Vieira, I'm not saying Xhaka and Vieira are the same players at all, but Vieira used to get fired up and would lose his cool quite often and get red cards for doing things that he shouldn't be doing, but he was still a good captain for Arsenal. So what I'm saying is that you can separate the two. You can still be a leader and make mistakes, so I do think he's the quiet leader, the quiet captain, or the, behind the scenes captain, and Aubameyang's just kind of wearing that armband. Machine says, I will trust Aziz over Xhaka. Okay. And even Samari can replace Xhaka. I'm not quite sure about that. I think we've seen that when you move from the French league to the Premier League, it can be a very big step up. He doesn't necessarily start every single game for Lille. He's not capped by the French national team, so he's not really playing at a higher level per se, so I would think that he would need some adaptation. So I don't think he may be able to replace Xhaka long term, but to step straight into the team next season as a 20-year-old, I don't necessarily agree with that. But the profile definitely could replace Xhaka if we're looking at it from just a profile standpoint. Eddie Longbridge says, hello, Jess and everyone. I like the show. It's fun, so I've decided to watch it live. Thank you. Eddie, you're the best. You have like the best accounts on Twitter. If you don't follow Eddie, you should be. Hilarious stuff on there. Mark says, I believe the most title-winning teams have 4 to 5 captains on the pitch. We are seriously lacking a voice on the pitch, and I guess in the dressing room too. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you think about it, you have probably Luiz, Xhaka, Lacazette, maybe, if you want to add him in there. Probably Tierney. That's 4. And, Tierney's injured quite a bit. And the other ones are a little bit like, okay, well, yeah, you're a leader because you were experienced, but are you really doing it on the pitch consistently? So I do think that we need to, find a way to get some more leadership out there on the pitch. Odegaard would be a good shout for that. I don't think he could be a captain straight away, but like Tierney, in other places where he's been, he's had leadership roles and captain roles where he's been. And Odegaard is now the new captain of Norway. So he obviously has some leadership qualities. We saw that against West Ham. So if we were able to acquire him, he might be another, person out there that we can add into that leadership group. Zach 10 Football says, what's your quick score prediction for Thursday's game? 2-1 Arsenal? I don't know. I always go 2-1 Arsenal. I think we'll give up a goal, but I think we'll get through, but I know we'll give up at least one goal. Just depends on how many goals we get. Don One says Party is more of a box to box than a DM. Yeah, for sure. Sunny says, "Hi Jess, what do you expect from the arrival of Richard Garlick, and what role do you think he will have at the club?" Yeah, I think Richard Garlick is being brought in as kind of a contracts guy. He knows the Premier League inside and out. He works for the Premier League right now, and I think the expectation is that he will come in and be able to write contracts that don't leave us susceptible to situations like we have with Mustafi, Socrates, Ozil, players like that. We're not going to get caught up with high wages. We're going to be ahead of the curve. We're not going to have maybe younger players leaving for free because we weren't able to get organized enough to get them on longer term contracts. So my expectation of him is to be the contracts guy and protect our assets and protect our asses, in regards to the players and lengths of contracts and fees and things like that. But because whoever we had before, I forget what his name was, Hasfami. Yeah, I think he wrote some contracts that didn't really protect us and put us in bad situations. So, and he was, rumored to be very difficult to deal with when it came to writing contracts as well. So hopefully Richard Garlick is the type of person that can come in and nip that in the bud, because we've had a big issue with contracts in the past. Fabrice says, "Hey, Jess." Hey, Fabrice. I know you were talking about midfielders, but what about goalkeeper and center back? Personally, I don't think a majority of them are good enough. So let's start off with the goalkeeper. Me and FK were kind of talking about this yesterday because a question came in, at that time about the goalkeeper situation. And I think Leno is fine for now. I think when we get to a point where we're solidly in top four and we're looking to challenge, I think that's when you go out and spend, 60, 70, 80 million on a world-class goalkeeper like an Oblak or, something like that. But for the moment, I think he's going through a tough time, and he's a little shaky with what he's being asked to do in terms of passing the ball out of the back. I think a lot of the players, or a certain group of players, are being tasked with doing things that are outside of their comfort zone and their skill set. So either they will be able to adapt or they will be replaced. So I think if Leno can't pass out of the back with consistency at a certain point, Arteta might look to move him on or do something different or grab a different goalkeeper with a different profile. But I think for now, if he can gain some better form, I think it's also just he's not in good form right now. Then we could keep him for a little bit longer, because I would hate to have to replace the goalkeeper this summer, because I don't think it's a priority. The backup goalkeeper is a priority. It would be nice to be able to sign Matt Ryan permanently. I think he's a good fit because he knows he's a number two. He's not going to come knocking on Arteta's door asking about more playing time. He's been at the club for a couple months now. So maybe we can sign him on a permanent and maybe bring up one of the kids. I know we have two really good young goalkeepers from the academy, Hein, and I forget the other one's name. You guys will probably put it in the chat box, and send Runnerson on loan. And I think that's what I do with goalkeepers. For the center backs, bring Saliba back. That's it. Bring Saliba back. We've already spent 27 million or so on a 19-year-old that is doing well on his loan. Surprise, surprise. I don't really know what the inner workings of, Arteta and Edu's work when they start looking at players and deciding who goes on loans and who doesn't. But up until this point, it looks like Saliba is doing well and should be able to come back and be brought into the fold. I think that solves a lot of our problems. You bring in Saliba, and then you have Gabriel, Holding, Marie, and David Luiz. I do think depending on if we have European competition or not, we need to get rid of at least one of those center backs because we won't have that much, another layer of football or another group of games that we can rotate players in. And at a certain point, we'll need to kind of nail down who are our starting center back pairing, which will make it difficult for other players to get in. I think Holding is perfectly happy being, second fiddle, being the fourth option, off the bench. I think Marie is also okay with his role. So right now it's about finding Gabrielle a partner. If we're not in European competition, I think it would be good to just let Louise go from a wage standpoint and from we don't need another center back here, and he would want to play. And I think it's more important to integrate Saliba back in, save our assets, protect our asset. And I know it might seem risky to play Gabrielle and Saliba together, but at some point we need to start integrating these kids in. Can you really afford to get rid of Holding? We just signed him up to a new deal. So I don't really know if that was to protect his value or because we want to keep him long term. But you also can't get rid of him because our homegrown quota is not looking good. With Maitland Niles and, Willick and these players out, we don't have a good homegrown quota. So they have to make a decision. I don't know if we need 5 center backs, but I think one of them, regardless if it's 4 or 5, one of them has to be Saliba. And I think you solve a lot of problems by doing that. But you guys let me know what you guys think. Do we need 5 center backs? Would you re-sign Louise? Do you sell Holding? What do you guys think? I think the only thing have a very solid stance on that I'm not going to probably waver from is Saliba needs to come back in. That doesn't look like it was a good decision, regardless, the way it was handled was so clumsy. Let's see. So I want to answer some questions, because obviously this is a Q&A. So if you guys just want to start dropping questions in, I'll keep reading your comments, but drop some questions in, just make it obvious that it's a question so that I can see it. And then towards the end, what I want to do is I want to have you guys rate certain players' times at Arsenal 1 through 10. So we'll do that more towards the end. I think that could be kind of fun. But for now, let's do some Q&A. Sean says, how are we going to solve the number 10 issue for Thursday? Well, they are saying that Martinelli and Saka should be fit for the game. So I think that solves it to a certain extent. That means that you could essentially play the exact same front four that played against Sheffield if you wanted to. And I think Saka did a pretty good job of playing that 10 role. Obviously, it wasn't an Odegaard 10 role, but it was a floating, free roll. And I think he did a pretty good job at that. So if Saka's available and fit, then that's who I'd play there. If he's not fit, then I think you go with probably Ceballos, to be honest, because I just don't think Willian is given anything in that position. And I would hate to see Lacazette dropping into that 10 role. I just don't think that's the right option. Let's see. New Dawn Game says, should we start giving Aziz and Balligan minutes in the Premier League? Whatever happens on Thursday, qualifying for Europe through the Premier League is all but dead, and the remaining fixtures are winnable enough. I think when we go out, or if and when we go out of the Europa League, that's when you start to integrate the kids a little bit more, because we need to use those Premier League games for continuity, chemistry, and consistency. And confidence, things like that. And if we start to chop and change, I think too much, this team is very fragile at the moment. So I think if we start playing kids, it might throw us off of whatever little rhythm that we already have. So I think if at a certain point we go out, then of course you can start playing the kids or whatever. And it really depends on how far back we are in terms of points. I think if it's ever mathematically out of the question that we can qualify for Europe through the league, then I think we just kind of do whatever, play some more kids. But I think if it's mathematically, possible for us to, qualify for Europe through the league, I think we'll continue to see stronger teams. And, so I would like to see Aziz and Balligan get minutes, but only if it's just out of the realm of possibility for us to qualify through the league and, if we're out of Europe completely. Alfred asks, seeing as he scored against Brentford B, what's Balligan's best position, winger or striker? I don't know. If I'm honest with you, like I haven't seen Balligan play that much, besides the clips that I've seen and his short cameo in the Europa League. I haven't seen a lot of him, but from what I know, he can play all the way across the front line, which I think is better for us because we don't have a lot. We have depth in the wide positions, but we don't have a lot of it. And some of it is not good at all, like Willian. So if Martinelli and Balligan are able to play out wide and central, I think that's good for us when we're trying to switch things around and kind of fill gaps when things are not, when we have injuries and things like that. So, but from what I know is he can play in both positions, but I think his primary role is as a striker. And if anybody in the chat box knows more about Balligan, please feel free, to let us know what his best position is. Let's see. Okay. Sean asked, what positions are we most vulnerable according to you, Jess? Vulnerable. Vulnerable. So I would say the quality level in certain positions are not great. Like left back, Tierney is one of the best left backs in the league, but he's not fit, and he's having a hard time being fit. So when he goes down, I think that position becomes a real weak spot, not only because, we don't have another left back with a left foot, but because a lot of our buildup goes through the left-hand side, So I look back at the January transfer window and think, wow, was there no way that we could have, brought in somebody, a no-name person just with a left foot that could have filled in for that role, even for a loan or something, but I think left back is one of our most vulnerable positions because the person that plays there, the quality is so high and we play so much off of the left-hand side that without him, it's just dead, so left back for sure. And I would say another position that's not that strong is probably right back as well. We have lots of options, but not a lot of good ones I don't think they're up to the level of the Premier League, in terms of, if you look at the top right backs in the league, I think we lack running power. I think we lack pace. We lack, we lack aggression in that position. Chambers is okay, but he kind of looks like a center back trying to play right back. Cedric is okay. He does all right, but he's not amazing. He's kind of like a mid-range type of player. And Bellerin, to me, since his injury, has lacked pace, and he's also not that strong. So I see that as a vulnerable position as well, because I see that a lot of teams like to attack that side. So yeah, I would say that as well. I would say the right side of the defense in general is a weak spot for us because a lot of teams tend to attack that side when we play. They rarely go off of Tierney's side. I think the only team that attacked Tierney's side was Manchester City, and I think that's because they wanted to counteract him going forward. But most teams that play against us go on Bellerin's side, and they try to play in between Bellerin and our right-sided center back because the right-sided center back is usually the weaker of the two. So yeah, I would say that's our most vulnerable positions. Maybe midfield if Thomas is not there because of the lack of athleticism. Once Thomas is gone or he's not available, we become that midfield that sits right in front of the defense. We're unable to progress the ball, and we just don't have the legs or the athleticism to get side to side and up and back. So yeah, central midfield, right back, and left back for sure are vulnerable positions. Yeah. Let's see. Nyan asks, would you play Aubameyang on Thursday if fit? The more I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking no. If I had to, pick a starting front four from who's fit at the moment, I'd probably pick the exact same front three that played against Sheffield and Saka in behind, and bring Aubameyang off of the bench if we need something. But I think Lacazette's in form. And I think you play the players that are in form, and you don't hope that somebody brings out a performance when they're just not been great in the last couple games. I think that's more than fair. Yeah, so I would say no up until this point. Lacazette, I would start Pepe, Lacazette, Martinelli, and Saka in behind. The exact same front four that started against Sheffield, really, to be honest. Let's see. Don One just answering that question was saying most vulnerable is left back and central midfield. Yeah, that's pretty spot on there. Yo-Yo asks, 0-0 in the Europa League final versus Manure. Stoppage time, free kick, dead center on the edge of the D. Who do you want to take? Oh no. Yo-Yo, this is a horrendous question because we don't have anybody with quality that can. I thought that's what we thought Willian was going to be doing, but obviously he can't. He's not good at all. Off of these free kicks. So free kick, dead center, edge of the D. Who do I want to take it? Probably Odegaard. I think he has quality from right in that area, and I would trust him to at least hit the target. Strangely enough, maybe Lacazette. He seems to put in performances and score goals in big games. But I'll tell you for sure, I wouldn't choose Willian. I wouldn't choose Thomas Partey or David Luiz. None of them could get around that ball. That's so funny. That's a good question. Lone Star disagrees with me and says Aubameyang will play Thursday and must. Well, yeah. I mean, if I can understand both arguments, if you don't, if you wouldn't want him to start or you do, I get it. Maybe on the day I say Aubameyang because I'm like, well, he is our most clinical best striker, so I get it. Sunny asks, in a nightmare scenario where we are not playing in Europe at all next season, we would obviously have to trim the squad substantially. Which players would you sell in the summer? Hold on, let me pull out my phone because I have it written in my phone. Yeah, I have my own little list on my phone. Don't make fun of me, guys. Okay, let me see. So I said, I think Kolasinac, Eddie, Lacazette, Hector Bellerin, and Guendouzi. I think that's very generous, or that would be very best case scenario if we were able to sell 5 players, this summer, because everybody's going to be trying to sell their players because they weren't able to last summer. So if we could sell those 5, I would probably be happy. I don't want Kolasinac anywhere near this club. I think Eddie, his career at Arsenal has ran its course. Good player, but probably not Arsenal standard, or we can't really see him being the number 9 moving forward. We could actually probably get about 20 million for Eddie, since the comp is probably Ryan Brewster, and Liverpool fleeced Sheffield for him. So 20 million for Eddie, 15 or so for Lacazette. I'd bite your hand off. Hector Bellerin, we could probably get 25 to 30 million for him. And Guendouzi, because his deal is running down, and I don't think he's ever going to come back. In regards to like Maitland-Niles and Willock, I think Willock will stay on loan for another year wherever he is, whether it's Newcastle or somewhere else. Maitland-Niles, I think, will also stay out on loan. I think we should have sold him to Wolves when we had the chance, but I wouldn't mind selling him as well. And then you have players like Reece Nelson, who probably needs a loan. We saw earlier this morning that Lucas Torreira wants to go to Boca Juniors, and we're trying to allow him to do so on some sort of loan with the wages being paid by Boca Juniors or something. So he'll probably end up on another loan. And then we'll probably need to keep the likes of Calum Chambers and Holding around for homegrown quota numbers. So if I had to choose, it would be those players, but it could be, I think I would say like probably 70, 80% of the squad is up for sale. You know, if you handed us some money, or you said I have this amount, we'd probably think about it. I don't think there's very many players in this squad at this moment that are untouchable, if that makes sense. Let's see. Yo-Yo asks, should clubs in the Premier League be forced to return to keeping their home kits for more than one season to lighten the burden on fans post-COVID? I mean, we do pump out like many, many kits, and we have a new one every year, obviously. Um, Maybe, but I think the whole point of that is to get us to spend money that we probably shouldn't be spending. And kit deals and new merchandise and things like that have probably been keeping Arsenal afloat, and keeping the lights on. So I definitely don't see that happening, but I mean, it's ridiculous that every single year we got to buy another kit to stay current. And then we switch like sponsorships as well every couple of years. So then all of a sudden you're wearing a Puma one and you're just like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Let's see. C. Finnan says El Neni, we can get money for him is bad in my opinion. So with El Neni, the only thing that I think is that he's the type of squad player that you don't have to worry about. Of course, for me, he's somebody that I'm like, I would rather him not be in the squad, but I think he's perfectly okay with being a squad player, and he's on not so bad wages, I don't think. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was offered a new contract and he stayed a little bit longer, because he's not ever going to knock on Arteta's door and be asking for playing time, you know. But El Neni, I mean, what do you think you could get for him? 5, 10 million? Lone Star says, Callum Chambers cross the ball? Yeah, I don't know if this is like a trick question, but I mean, I think he's a pretty good crosser. I think he's a better crosser than Bellerin, to be fair. I just think he lacks that ability to get up and down the pitch quickly. He's pretty slow, and he looks like a center back trying to play right back to me. So, but yeah, I think he crosses the ball pretty well. Lone Star says Laka offered nothing in the first leg against Slavia Prague. I mean, it's not that he didn't offer anything, it's that he missed those chances. I think that's more what it is than anything. But I think he's still in form in numbers wise. And in the last, basically since Boxing Day, he's been our best striker. And Aubameyang, to be fair, had good form before the North London derby, but everything has just kind of fallen off of a cliff since then. And I'm not sure what it is. I don't want to speculate, but I'm leaning more towards Lacazette. But again, we could wake up on Thursday morning and I'm like, no, Aubameyang for sure, because he'll show up today. I get either argument. Sean asks, if you can get any player in the world right now, who would you get now? I mean, any player in the world. I mean, even if you offered me any player in the world, I'd probably still be that person that wouldn't say Messi. I probably wouldn't say Ronaldo. If you could offer me, if I could, okay, any player in the world. That's tough. That's really, really tough. I mean, what do we need? We need a central midfielder. Oh gosh. Am I whack if I still say Basuma? That's what my heart is saying. Bring me Basuma so we can unlock party. I mean, if you had asked me this last season, I probably let me see. If you had asked me this last season, I would have said Thomas Partey, because that's the player that I've always wanted at Arsenal. So now it's probably Basuma. But if we're just saying any player in the world, probably Mbappe. I know everybody likes Haaland. I love Haaland as well. I think he's a great striker, but there's just something about Mbappe. He's cold. Like, he's cold. He's quick. He's the only player that I've ever seen post Henri that's actually reminded me of Henri. There's a lot of players that come and go, and he's the next Henri. No, Mbappe is the only player that's ever really reminded me of Henri. And if we could get him at the Emirates, I would. What do I have to give you? So I would say Mbappe, if any player in the world, for sure. Let's see. What do you guys think? If you could get any player in the world, who would you take? Let's see. Eddie says Haaland. I mean, I think Haaland is a very good option if we could get anybody in the world, you know? Let's see. Anthony Soto says, seems pretty clear Arsenal are moving on from Hector. What profile of player should we replace him with? Yeah, so kind of talked about this yesterday too with FK. Um, I think we did, or maybe it was on here earlier. I don't know. I'm getting confused now. But so my thought process is more of somebody that can, first of all, I want somebody bigger and taller and stronger. 6 feet ish profile, somebody that, can beat a man and has a good cross on them, but can also, can be a physical type of player too. I don't want somebody who's being targeted because they're a weak spot, or somebody getting bullied off the ball or, so I'm thinking in more somebody that can play almost like a third midfielder. I think that's more what I would be interested in. If you've been here before, I talk about Denzel Dumfries. The only issue with him is that he's one of those types of players that his quality may not transfer or may not translate in the Premier League because he plays in the Dutch league. But I like the profile, I like the stature, I like the physicality of that player. Mukele has also been mentioned on this channel multiple times. The only issue with him, I think, is that he's more of a wing back or a center back. He's not really a right back, just a right back. So maybe not him, but again, physical stature, athleticism, not going to be targeted for being weaker. And so if I had to just choose somebody off the top of my head, it'd probably be Emerson Royale from Real Betis, on loan to Real Betis from Barcelona, because I think that he's somebody that we could get. It would make sense. I would expect Edu to be able to coerce Brazilian players to come to Arsenal. I don't think his career is ever going to take off at Barcelona, and we could probably get him for 15 to 20 million, and he's the right age profile as well. I know a lot of people like Hakimi, but I don't think it's realistic without European football. I like him. He plays more like a winger. He's very technically gifted and really, really fast. I love Hakimi, but because I don't think it's realistic, I tend not to really focus on him. But there's two different profiles, right? You have the one that can kind of sit in, play like a third midfielder, and kind of has like that physical stature, more like a Cancelo type. And then you have Hakimi's, the bombing forward, playing basically like a winger. If you have that type of player, you need to make sure your right-sided center back can cover space. And essentially what you end up doing is playing almost like Van Dijk and a Joe Gomez. You basically end up playing with two center backs. Maybe your central defensive midfielder drops in, but your right back and left back are just bombing forward, leaving spaces and gaps in behind. So that's something to consider. If you have Holding and David Luiz back there as your right-sided center back, no Hakimi for you because it won't work. So that's something to consider. um, Yo-Yo asks, borrowing Clive's terms, what is Arteta's managerial ceiling and floor? Have we already seen either at this club at least? This is a really good question. It's a little early for these really deep and thoughtful questions, Yo-Yo. But for me, it's still like 8 o'clock in the morning. So, and I still haven't had enough coffee. But managerial ceiling and floor. I think he has an extremely high ceiling. I mean, his floor is pretty much what he's come into it. 10th place, 15th place, making debatable decisions. Authoritarian, very stiff, rigid, unmoving, with younger players. I think that's been his floor. I think this probably is his floor. I think so kind of how I think about it is, and I hate to say this, but managers don't stay that long at clubs anymore. We were lucky to be in a situation where we had a manager for 20 years, but Arteta will be here for maximum 3 to 5 years, right? He's already been here for almost two, so I think wherever he goes after this, he will have used this to practice and he'll probably be better wherever he goes. I think he's going to be a really good manager. I think a lot of people believe he will be a really good manager. He has a lot of backing from big, legends of the game that say that, they rate him pretty highly. He's just new and needs to bump his head a couple times to know what he should and should not do. And he's doing that at Arsenal. So I think for me, I think we've seen his floor. We're nowhere near his ceiling, but we don't even know if we'll see the ceiling of Arteta at Arsenal because he may be gone before he really gets going, but I think he'll learn a lot of hard lessons, here at Arsenal. New Dawn says, FYI, your social media links aren't working. Where? On Twitter or where? In the description box? Just let me know where they're not working and I'll fix them later. But you guys know you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jacinho and on Instagram at It's Jacinho, and She Knows Arsenal everywhere on socials as well. So if it's just not working in the description box or something, I'll definitely fix them right after. But yeah, technology. Letting me down. Or it could be user error. You never know. Or user on my end. Tony asks, hi, Jess. Hi to you too. Next year, who should our starting right wing be? Assuming Saka is right wing. I think it depends on what we do in the market. I lean towards Emile Smith-Rowe, to be honest. I think that having in a second 10, they're dropping in with Odegaard and dropping into build-up and also being able to get wide would be a good option. But again, the kid is made out of glass. He's I don't know if he'll become the starting one or he'll play the most minutes at left wing because he's not fit that often. But if I had my choice, my natural choice would be Emile Smith-Rowe. I like the idea of having Smith-Rowe, Odegaard, and Saka in behind Aubameyang next season. I think that's the best, for us to unlock Aubameyang and make sure that he's scoring goals. So my gut is saying Emile Smith-Rowe if he's fit. And I think him and Tierney play well together too. And he never shirks his defensive duties, which is something that I really like about Emile Smith-Rowe. I think Pepe is doing better at defending and making sure that he's, clued in on the defensive end, but I think Smith-Rowe just does it naturally. So, yeah, Emile Smith-Rowe. Bergie's son says, most defeats in a season for an Arsenal coach ever. I understand this, and I get that, so we're thinking about the results aspect, and when you see the numbers, it looks atrocious. And when you look at the numbers, it can make you question everything that you're seeing and not acknowledge the progress that is there, and I understand that some people, if the results are not there, then it's not progress. Progress is not without actual physical results. But I feel better about what we're doing with Arteta than I did with Emery, even though Emery had better results, if that makes sense. I had a very hard time watching Emery, not only because the football was horrendous, but the players that were there didn't feel like Arsenal players to me. I had a very hard time looking at, and I'm like, do I even like any of these players? Now I'm like, love Saka, love Pepe, love Emile Smith-Rowe, Thomas Partey, even players that I didn't like when Emery was here are starting to become players that I can stand now, like Xhaka and Luiz. I couldn't see their good points under Emery, and I just feel like I see something with Arteta, whether or not it will come to fruition or whether or not the project will be completed under Arteta, whether or not he'll be able to get the results to stay here longer term, that's to be determined. But I look at Emery's results and I look at Arteta's results and I can see that Arteta's clearly underperforming and it's worse, but watching Emery and just I felt like we were losing ourselves and we were sliding then. Essentially what we're seeing under Arteta is the result of Aubameyang not scoring goals. If Aubameyang had stopped scoring goals under Emery, he would have been in the same position because Aubameyang's been outperforming his XG for a couple years now. So he was due a slump, and it happened under Arteta, which I think is a consequence of the change in system and us playing differently. So you can say that that's Arteta's fault if you want to, but I feel much better under Arteta than I did under Emery. It felt horrible under Emery. That 22 game win streak, I think it was Mark that was saying it yesterday, was really smoke and mirrors. It was a farce. It wasn't real. Yeah. So that's how I kind of feel about it. Yo, with these questions. Okay, let me take a sip of coffee really quick because you asked these crazy questions. Whew. Okay. Question. PSG submit a world-breaking bid. Who do you let go of between ESR and Saka? So we're talking about like 200 million or something like that. Oh, I don't know. My babies. Oh no. My gut is saying let Smith Rowe go. It just is. So, but I love him though. I don't think Smith Rowe. Okay, so here's my thing. I think Smith Rowe has a very high ceiling, but I don't think his ceiling is as high as Saka's. And I think you're going to find I think when I look for comps for Saka, I have a harder time finding those than players that can play similarly to Emile Smith Rowe. I could probably name you 2 players off at the top of my head right now that could do similar things to Smith Rowe, but I can't name a lot that have the same quality as Saka, have a higher ceiling than Saka. Like, Saka's special. Sorry. So I would say Emile Smith Rowe, I'll let you go to PSG, buddy. But I would offer them Pepe first if I had my choice. Yeah. You guys, it's just a fun question. Yo-Yo's just playing around. We're not really talking about, obviously I wouldn't want to sell either of them, but if I had to choose, Mashane says Smith Rowe is better than Saka. I don't think so. Not in my opinion, no. Give me some evidence of this, Mashane. I'm very interested to see why you feel like Smith Rowe is better than Bukayo Saka. I need to know more about why you feel this way. I don't agree, but I feel like you might have some good reasonings behind it. I hope you do, because that's a big statement. Hey, Sophie, how are you, girl? How are you doing? I'm good, Sophie. Thank you for asking, but let me know how you're doing. You guys, Sophie is in the chat. Taha Jeffrey says Arteta hype is too much. I mean, is Arteta being hyped? You think he's overhyped? You think he's overrated, underrated? What? I think he gets battered quite a bit. Most of what I see is Arteta's not good enough. He does have a little PR going every once in a while. Barcelona's looking at him, PSG's looking at him, but ultimately I think, he's rated quite fairly. A new manager that's underperforming with a bad squad that needs to get it together before December of next year. So yeah. So Sean, Martinez, or Leno. I prefer Martinez. If I had to choose between the two, just without the scenario, without any context whatsoever about contracts or, any of the situations, I choose Martinez. Knowing the context of the situation and the situation that we were in, when Martinez was at Arsenal, I do think we made the right decision. That being said, I don't necessarily like that Leno is not being challenged, but I think that that's kind of what they want. They don't want anybody that could challenge. Essentially Martinez didn't want to challenge Leno anymore. He felt like he had done enough to win that spot, so he was never going to accept a season of them two battling it out per se, almost like a Dean Henderson and De Gea type of scenario, which is not very common. We don't really see that. Usually the number one keeper is that, and the number two is significantly worse. But I think there's a lot of players in our team, including Leno to a certain extent, where I feel like they're not being challenged. And I think that adds to the level of complacency, and feeling like, well, tomorrow I will start. But if you had a Martinez, behind you trying to take your spot, maybe you wouldn't be playing the way that you play. So, I don't know. But I think without any context and just thinking goalkeeper versus goalkeeper, I would say I prefer Martinez. Out of Aaron's, Hakimi or Lamptey, I would choose probably Hakimi because he's the best out of the three. All right. I see Hakimi, or not Hakimi, Martinez is way better than Leno. I don't know if he's way better, but I would say that I like that goalkeeper better. Okay. So I'm looking for another question. I'm like, yo, these questions are just, they're devastating, but I love them. Waking me up. Okay, Yo asks, Harry Kane wishes to return to his boyhood club this summer. Spurs demand a player swap between Party or a combination of Balligan and Martinelli. Come on, Yo, this is insane. Okay, no. I won't answer this because I would never want Harry Kane to come back to Arsenal. I would never sign Harry Kane. I don't want him anywhere near this club. I would never accept it. And yeah, Harry Kane could stay exactly where he is. You guys do what Fergie-son says: like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend, and like the video if you're enjoying yourself. Remember, at 6 p.m. UK time. So, let me look at in 2 hours, Harry Symeou is going to be on the channel, and we're going to be talking about the big European clashes for this week. We'll talk about PSG versus Bayern and Real Madrid versus Liverpool. We'll most likely get into some Arsenal talk. And yeah, so make sure that you guys are, and Dortmund versus Manchester City. But make sure that you guys are subscribed and set your notifications for that as well, because you don't want to miss it. Belvishwan, here you go. Here you go. Kane is the best striker in the world. You're nuts, Belvishwan. So Lewandowski doesn't exist? What are we saying? Let's see. Mick asked, where should the bulk of the summer budget be spent? Midfield, number 10 up front? I think number 10. I think without a number 10, we've seen that the difference between our Arsenal could be, 10th to 12th or 7th. I think in the table since December, basically since we've had a 10 in the squad or a creative player, we've been massively better. And it was a huge risk to start the season without one. So I would say the majority of the money needs to go to getting Martin Odegaard. I'm looking at the other options, and I don't really see them that are comparable to him. You have players like Awa, but he's not really a 10. He's an 8, that plays a little bit deeper. Great dribbler, great ball progressor, but doesn't add that much in the final third and doesn't have a killer pass like Odegaard. You have players like Bundia, who's a wide right player. I know that we all believe that he could probably play in a 10 role. He hasn't played there for Norwich in a very long time. He doesn't play in the 10 role very often. So although I think the technical quality of Buendia would suit us, I don't think positionally he's the right fit. You have a player like Nkunku that can play off wide and play through the middle, but I still think Odegaard is what we're looking at, So I would like us to spend the majority of the money on Martin Odegaard, and then fix the right back and left back situation, and then see what we can do after that, because we got to get a left back cover and we need a new right back. Let's see. Mishane says Emil is a number 10, even according to our golden boy Saka. He's a different type of number 10. And I think we get caught up on the numbers and, is he a 6? Is he an 8? He can play across the front. I think as he gets older, he'll be able to play deeper as a deeper kind of player in the 8 position. I also see if he gets some more physicality to him, he might be able to play through the middle, so I think Emil Smith-Rowe can play anywhere, in the side up front in the front 6 positions if he really wants to, but I still think Saka is better than Emil. I still do. You guys make sure that you smash the likes. And thank you so much for the compliment. I really appreciate it. You guys, I really want to thank you for being here with me. And I do these streams for you guys because you guys have been asking for just more laid back, question and answer types of streams, and I really enjoy them. So I'm really glad that you guys are here, and I'll keep doing these as long as you guys like them. Yeah, let's keep it rolling. Velvet Schwan says Odegaard will come to the best team in the world, Liverpool. Not so much. Not so much. I think a lot of players have a really they have a really good relationship with Klopp because he's one of those that kind of people gravitate towards. I know Mbappe has a really good relationship with him as well, but I think Odegaard his main thing is that he wants to have an opportunity to develop and to just grow as a player. And I think because you guys are in a position where you need to get up the table and you guys need to get back in and around, the Premier League first and second place, I don't think it's a time for Odegaard to be able to develop. And I think Arteta is the perfect coach to help him develop. And maybe he goes to a Liverpool later on in his career, or a different team. But I don't think he'll go to you guys because you guys are under a lot of pressure. And Odegaard would probably fit in with a younger group that's developing, like Saka. And your team's old. Why would he want to hang out with you guys anyway? All right, you guys. So now that we're getting towards the end, what I kind of want to do is ask you guys to rate a couple of players' Arsenal careers from 1 to 10. We did this yesterday with FK, and I thought it was really interesting to see the different answers. So the first one is Lacazette. If you guys were here with FK, we did this, but go ahead and put your answer in the chat box. But if you had to rate Lacazette's Arsenal career from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would you rate his Arsenal career as? I think Lacazette is just one of those types of players that the narrative around him, and so there's certain players in our squad that can do no wrong, and there's certain players that they can miss chances that other players miss, and all of a sudden he's the worst thing ever. Lacazette has, I think, 73 goal involvements in 124 games. He just got to his 50th goal for Arsenal, or 50 goals for Arsenal. Not a lot of players in the Emirates era have been able to accomplish that. He works really hard. He was brought in under strange circumstances. We're looking for a 20 to 30 goal a season striker. Brought in Lacazette, not thinking that maybe 10 of those goals that he was scoring for Lyon over the years were penalties. He doesn't always take penalties for us. So technically he's not really a 20 to 30 goal a season striker. Is he better than Giroud? I think that's debatable. The assignment was not completed, right? That's what we wanted, 20 to 30 goals from this particular striker, and he wasn't able to do that. That being said, you bring him in, and then 6 months later, you bring in Aubameyang. So what does that do to your mindset? You bring in the striker that was essentially we should have either waited on Aubameyang or built the squad around Lacazette. But if you build the squad around Lacazette, you need wingers that can score, 15 to 20 goals a piece, and we had just gotten rid of Alexis. So I think the option there was to replace Alexis with a winger that can score 15 to 20 goals a season and make sure you have one on either side of Lacazette, or you wait and just bring in Aubameyang. We did neither. We brought in both of them, and it's been a very strange ride. I think for Lacazette, spent some of his best years here at Arsenal and has gotten very little in return. Hasn't been able to break into the French national team. On pretty much the wrong side of 30 now. Probably is not going to get a move to a really big side. I know at a certain point he was being linked with Atletico. I don't think they're interested anymore. They have Dembele. They could probably keep him for a little bit longer. Maybe he goes to a Roma. Maybe he stays and runs his deal down. Who knows? But if I had to rate him out of a 10, I would give him a 6. Let's see what you guys are saying. Oh, I lost it. I see 4, 6, Still a 7, but maybe a 6. 6. 6 again. Laka 6. Laka 7. Laka 6, not consistent enough. 5. 5. As a CDM, I rate him a 6. That's harsh. Eddie says Lacazette rating 6.27. 6. So yeah, we're all kind of like in agreement there about a 6. Just not good enough. But I think there's layers there. I think there's layers there. But essentially, the assignment wasn't completed, right? Score more goals than Giroud. Be better than Giroud. He wasn't able to do that. But I think the circumstances really, were unfair and harsh on him. All right. Bellerin, another player that might leave in the summertime. Divisive figure at Arsenal. A lot of people love him. A lot of people don't like him. I think some of it's harsh. I think we look at the type of player that he is and the fact that he has other interests outside of football and use that to create a narrative around him that's probably not very accurate. Good player. At the beginning of his career at Arsenal, he had said in an interview that he wanted to become the best right back in the world. And the assignment was not completed, obviously. But I think at a certain point, probably when he had the bun and we had the tight Puma jerseys, he was one of the best right backs in the league. He relied a lot on his speed. And now that he doesn't have that, you can see that it's hampering him a little bit. It's keeping him from being able to be the type of player that we remember. He spent the majority of his youth at Arsenal, still only 25 years old, but I mean, he's been around for a long time. What would you rate Bellerin's Arsenal career, as out of 10? If you had to give him a rating out of 10, 10 being the highest, how would you rate Bellerin's Arsenal career? Let's see. Bellerin 5. Sean says Bellerin 3. Maxwell says Bellerin 4. Garrett says 7. Don says Bellerin 5. Lone Star says Bellerin minus 60. Harsh. C. Finnan says Bellerin was good before his injury. Now since he's garbage. Yeah. He hasn't been able to really recover, has he? Not the speed, which is what he needs. Taha says Bellerin right now 3. Overall 7. Alfred says Bellerin 5. Yo-Yo says Hecky B is a 5-6, greatly overrated before his injuries. He doesn't hide, and for that reason, he deserves some respect. Yeah. Could it be that that's kind of like the thing about players like Bellerin and Xhaka is that they haven't been good enough over the span of their careers, but they don't hide and they do show up, so they have some leadership qualities, but they're just not good enough, skill-wise, like as players. And maybe we overrate the leadership qualities and the fact that they show up. Those are things that you probably should have, but talent is the most important thing. And neither of those two players have enough of the talent aspect to warrant them still being at Arsenal when we need to improve. They're kind of just mid, basic players. Bellerin is finished 5. Dave says 4. Robert says 5. Rashad says 4. Looks like he's lost a yard of pace. Exactly. Mashane says Ballerina 4. That's harsh. Stuart says 7. Loyal servant. Seawalder says 6. Started up in the 8s, but the injury. Exactly. So, yeah. 5. It's more split on this one. I think we were more together, on Lacazette, that we could all say probably around a 6. But with Bellerin, it's more, it just depends on what you think. But if I had to give him an honest rating out of 10, I would probably give him a 5. I think he's just been average. He's had high highs and low lows. And I think we should have upgraded on him a while back, and we haven't done so. And we have to do it this summer. It's the best time because I think he wants to go. And I think we could do a lot better. I think we need a different profile in there, for sure. But those are the 2 that I wanted to do, and we're about an hour in, an hour and 5. I'm just reading. You guys, your comments are freaking hilarious. Alfred says Lauren and Dixon are the kite marks for right back, and Bellerin, while he does give it all, just isn't on those levels. That's true. That's very true. I mean, they could give everything, but the talent level is just not the same. And that's not to say that, LeBron and Dixon were the best right backs, some of the best right backs of their era. The assignment is different now. You have to be fast. You have to be able to, contribute to the offense. You have to be able to cross the ball. You have to be physical. There's just so many things that he doesn't possess. And I think not having the speed just makes him so, so mediocre. So I would definitely like to see him go, at this point. But I don't want to bash him too much. But you guys, that's going to be it for the stream today. I think we did a good job. We had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. You guys, let me know if you enjoyed this. If you have questions and they didn't get answered on the stream, please feel free to go into the comment section afterwards and just leave them there, and I'll answer them when I have a chance. Remember to be back here at 6 p.m. UK time, where me and Harry will be discussing the big European fixtures that are coming up this week. PSG versus Bayern, Man City versus Dortmund, and what's the other one, you guys? Real Madrid versus Liverpool. Probably not even going to talk about the Chelsea one because let's be real, they should go through. And we'll also get into some Arsenal talk. We'll do Q&A with Harry, so make sure you're back. Yep. Bye, you guys. Bye, Sean. Thank you, Yo-Yo, for all your amazing questions. Alfred, thank you for being here. Eddie, thank you for being here. Newman, thank you. Better. Were you here early this time? Were you here early or were you late? Stuart says, imagine Jess as Arsenal boss. I would be killing it. No, I would be sacked by now. But you guys, all right. I will see you guys later. Bye, guys.